Now, how is the sound now, folks? Can everybody hear me? If someone let me know, we're back up on the live stream again. I just restreamed it. How is the sound now, folks? Could be something to do with the could be something to do with everybody hear me? Is giving me a thumb up anyway. Good now. That's it. It's something to do with the stream. That's the joys of going live, I suppose. Now stream again. I just restreamed it. How is the sound now, folks? Yeah, could be something to do with everyone seems to be getting us live again. Could be something to do with everybody hear me? You know, good now. That's it. It's something to do with the stream. That's the joys of going live, I suppose. Now stream again. I just restreamed it. How is the sound now, folks? Could be something to do with everyone seems to be getting us live again. Could be something to do with everybody hear me? You know, good now. That's it. It's something to do with the stream. That's the joys of going live, I suppose. Now stream again. I just restreamed it. How is the sound now, folks? Could be something to do with everybody seems to be getting us live again. Could be something to do with everybody hear me? You know, good now. That's it. It's something to do with the stream. That's the joys of going live, I suppose. Now stream again. I just restreamed it. How is the sound now, folks? Could be something to do with everybody seems to be getting us live again. Could be something to do with everybody hear me? You know. Is that any better? If not, I'll just restart again. Okay, thanks Kieran, thanks Peter. Bear with me 1 second, folks. I'm just going to have to try once more and see. It could be the night that's in it. Everything is set up. It's fixed now, is it, Peter? Seems to be working okay. How are we doing, folks? Perfect again, okay. Just clicked a couple of buttons here. Yeah, Robbie, done that. Yeah. Okay, great. We're all good to go now, are we? Good now. David Donovan has given us thumbs up, so good now. How you doing anyway, folks? Bit of a glitchy start. Never my most favourite moment. Always kind of puts me under a little bit of pressure. But anyway, I'm going to get back into the swing of things now. We've got a lovely show lined up for you tonight, folks. I hope everyone had a good week. Bit of a mental week here in the house, and I make apologies that I didn't get a chance to do the draw for the flies during the week. It was actually a crazy week here. Shop was busy, 2 kids, sick wife at the start of the week, and the whole week I was just chasing my tail for the entire week, so I didn't get a chance to do the draw. I did it before we came on. We did it earlier on. And Liam Long, congratulations, Liam, our good friend Liam. You won yourself the setting nymphs from last week. I'll get them out to you in the post. Liam, Monday morning, so Liam Long won the flies from last week. Everyone's doing okay now, Peter, thanks a million. So Dave will be along. What I was saying earlier on is Dave is going to be along later on with a trivia. We got a nice prize pack there again to give out to everybody, so make sure you share that stream, hit that share button. Some people might be missing us now, but some people hit that share button, folks, or comment on the stream, puts you in to win tonight's flies. Also, hi to all our YouTubers. Hope everybody's keeping well on YouTube. Check us out tomorrow. Rokos will be along with us tonight, folks. Roko's doing a lovely hare's ear nymph there for us later on. He's going to be along with us, so make sure you stay tuned for that one. So Dave will be along. Tonight we're doing, so I'm getting ready for... Didn't put too much effort into this show tonight. It's been a crazy week, but I'm getting ready for Wales. We're going to Wales on Thursday to fish the Hannock European Grayling Festival, and good man. I'm actually going to keep that, Rob Dylan. They mightn't recognise me. I'm going to keep it. Maybe that's the winter layers for the D next week. But looking forward to going to the Welsh D on Thursday. Over to me, our good friend Dylan Roberts, and the rest of the Cohen anglers and Glockland anglers on the Welsh D. A lot of internationals coming over as well. So fantastic weekend ahead next week. How you doing, Kenneth? Garrett Core's on there as well. How you doing, Garrett? But we're going over to Welsh Day, so I'm going to be tying flies all week now because I haven't not much tied. I'm going to be tying flies all week for the Welsh Day. Now, we are going to do another Grayling night somewhere along the way as well, folks. I have a plan for a really good Grayling night. But tonight I said I will tie up some of the fly patterns that I'm going to be fishing next week on the D. I make no bones and I don't keep any secrets when it comes to patterns. I photographed them, I videoed them before. And you can see even here in the voice, I have probably my number one Grayling nymph, which is that hare's ear. I've tied it plenty of times on YouTube. I've tied it plenty of times on good man Robbie. I've tied it plenty of times on YouTube and stuff like that, and I've tied it on the show. It's a simple hare's ear on a curved hook. That's a 611 size 12 there, and I got a 3.5mm countersunk tungsten bead on it. I'm not going to tie it again, but I'll just give you a quick run through with that nymph. It's simple hare's ear, and basically the ribbon on it there is that copper sulky. I pull it out here beside me. That copper sulky that I've always used before. Yeah, exactly, Dylan. Copper sulky. Okay, that's the copper sulky I use. You can see the code of there. kind of hard to find at times. I got it years ago, but you know, if I'm ribbing a hare's ear like that, I do just like to use a kind of a tinsel rather than a wire, because the wire can sit inside the hare's ear a bit, and it doesn't have any impact on the fly whatsoever, only give it strength. Where the kind of flat wire, you can get Sabaya flat wire, which is quite good. We have loads of it in shop there if you want to pick up some of that, if you can't get that Gutterman copper. But it sits kind of on top of the dubbin more so, and as you can see, it'll come through, and even when that nymph gets wet after being fished for a few minutes, there's a beautiful fleck coming underneath the dubbin. And then all I have is a thorax up there, is a bit of squirrel dubbin mixed in with a bit of hare's ear as well, just to give that bit of spiky stuff. And everything's brushed out really well. So how you doing, Norman Wells? Thanks, Dennis. Yeah, Liam. But that's my number one. I could go to the Welsh Dee with that fly and a Grayling Slayer, which is all know, most of you know what a Grayling Slayer is, and they're something I'm not going to tie tonight, because I'm just not going to. We're going to do some other stuff that are as effective. Robbie Berries, it's impossible to find. It is simple Grayling Slayer, as you can see. It's just you know, I've tied it as well before. A scruffy little nymph with a hot orange. And my tweezers there somewhere. I don't know where it's bloody gone. I had it earlier on, but with a hot orange. Oh, found it. With a hot orange, bit of an orange thorax on it. Okay, so that's there bit too. I could go Grayling fishing with those two all day long, no problem. Okay, but there is a couple of other nymphs you'd want now and again. Okay, how you doing, John Johnson? There's a couple of other nymphs that we want now and again, and I'm going to tie them. The first one is going to be again on a curved hook. Now, I tied this, I think, on one of the very first shows I ever did. This Grayling nymph, fantastic Grayling nymph. You've seen photographs of it. I tied it in several colours, mostly orange and pink. Okay, it's a shrimp pattern, but there's a good technique to tying this, and it's one, you know, being aware of and showing these again, because I think the first time I tied it, it took me quite a while to manage to get the underwork. And I suppose to start off tonight, we want to talk about weight, and we want to talk about the underbody. We want to talk about the underbody that goes into these flies. Okay, lead. So what I've got in there is a 611 Dahaku. Just look at my thread here. Dahaku. How you doing, Kieran Flint? Good man. 611 Dahaku curved hook down the vise, and I got a 3mm metallic pink, Skyfly metallic pink tungsten bead onto it, and I'm going to start by just attaching on my Kevlar thread and just put a little layer down there. So the whole trick about shrimps is getting that profile right. Okay, now if you were to just dub on that and pull your scud back up over the back of it and stuff like that, you know, you will get a certain shape to it, but it won't be probably as effective as when we kind of exaggerate that curve that's in the shrimp. Okay, but you know, so you can wrap on some lead there if you want, and create a much more exaggerated curve on the back of that hook. But what you'll get with that is you'll also get the diameter of that fly will expand too. We don't want that. We want to create a larger hump on the back of that hook, but we want to keep it as slim as possible, because when the shrimp goes into the water, it has a flicker, and it helps, like, you know, how you doing, David May? Kevin Mars on there as well. Has a little bit of a flicker. So what we got to do is we got to mount some lead onto the back of that. Okay, so here I got some this lead is really good. This is a flat lead by Tommy Fly. Okay, you can see a lot of you pick it up in our shop, our web shop, but this is really good. Okay, I use a lot of this lead. It's high quality, has really good density in it, and it's really good lead. And I'm going to just cut a very small little piece off the end of that. I'm just cutting back at a little angle. I'll show you what it is now in a second. You'll see it when I just do it. So I flatten it out. And I cut it back at a little angle. I just take my thread back up the center, and I'm basically going to mount that lead onto the very top of the hook, like so. Gentle turns, no great pressure on that thread for the moment, till I get it trapped in. Now it'll twist and it'll fall on you sometimes, a lot of times. See? And all you do is just take it off and go again. I think after doing a couple of them, you just get into the whole tension thing, and you'll get them on much quicker. Just make sure it's straight going on, it'll help. And this is basically going to exaggerate the curvature of that hook. I was down at the Munster Banks today. It was on in Adair Springs, and John Bird won it convincingly. Well, congratulations to John. Kevin Lafford was second, and Ian Howard was third. I think there was 170 fish caught for the day in absolutely horrendous conditions, is all I can say. I was sitting inside drinking a cup of coffee there a few times and looking out at them, and I really did feel for them. And I was thinking, thank God. Thank God I'm not out there today. Okay, still not. And just like it happened in the very first show, one of the very first shows I did, when I done this fly. So after a couple of attempts, what I'll do is I'll actually put that away. Damien Willis is on with us there. How you doing, Dane? John Wilkinson there. Anthony Brady. After a couple of attempts of messing around with the one, I'll just take it off. Now, say if I was doing these and I was at them for an hour, you know, the first couple, the first one or two will be a little bit difficult until you get into the rhythm and get that tension right. And then you do tend to start to fly them. They do take a bit of practice. But it's a pain in the backside. There's no point saying it's not. But it's one of those pains in the backside you have to do. Okay, for this particular shrimp fat one. Because I've tried them, doing them without the lead work underbody, and it just does not work. They will catch a couple of trout, but they're not, or grayling, sorry, but they're not going to produce the fish that these ones are going to produce. So, yeah, get that thread just back up there a little bit. Hope everyone's had a good week. There were toy shows on last night. The Christmas decorations went up here today. Two very happy kids. Up late watching the toy show, eating rubbish half the night. Got up then today. Put up the Christmas decorations. So all is good now. Okay. Good start on this one. And yeah, got it this time. Okay, so once I get a couple of turns to hold that in position, I'll then come up here and I will whip finish that off. It doesn't work. Doesn't work, Kevin. I've tried everything. I've tried glutamine and everything. The only way to get it done is just spend a few moments. It's only the first one. I say if I was tying a couple of those, I'd have them run off. And of course, if I'm tying a load of these, I sit and I do all my lead work. Because you can see now the way I've exaggerated that, but yet we've added no diameter to the diameter. We added no bulky or kind of, you know, nothing to the diameter of the actual fly itself. So it's going to be quite curved but not bulky. Okay, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to wrap it all with an even finer lead. Okay, this is again Tommy fly, a real fine lead. So we can wrap it now because we'll have our shape. And just gently wrap the whole thing. And it's again about weight. It's about having, you know, the Wedge Day is going to be a big river on the weekend, next weekend. And we need weight and profile to get these nymphs down. This is a really fine lead wire. And I'll wrap that. So again, as you can see, even with the wrapping, we haven't added any great bulkiness to that fly, okay? Absolutely, Anthony Brady. It's not a stupid question at all. Absolutely. Not possibly this particular pattern, but definitely some of the olives. Yeah, I have fished shrimp patterns on lakes plenty of times and got plenty of fish on them, home and abroad. So I'm going to just put in a nice coating of Zappa Gap on that. Good generous coating of Zappa Gap. Now it's not going anywhere. Don't forget, folks, if you hit that share button, you're in tonight to win all these flies. I played a couple earlier on, and I'll just use my tissue paper just to take off the excess before. But that's it. That's not going anywhere now. You let that dry, continue on, go on to the next one, and that's your underbody, okay? So you paint the backside, but you've got to do it because you're not going to get the profiles right. Thanks, Betty. Hope yourself and Michael are keeping well. Good to have you on there with us, Betty Hayes. So you're not going to get the profiles right unless you do that underbody work, okay? I've tried them, fished them for years. I've got a lot of fish on these over the years, and you've got to take your time and tie them right. So I put that aside, and I continue on, and I spend the whole evening here. Probably tomorrow evening, I'm going to spend the whole evening just leading up nymphs for the Welsh Day, and then I'll come back another evening. And so the more you do, after a couple, you'll start getting a good pace to them. Now I'll go back to my Kevlar. Probably give it a little bit longer to dry, but it's going to be okay. Go back to my Kevlar and just start getting ready to build this fly. Okay, so we're going to have a rib on this. Good man, Dylan. Dylan's out with the hairdryer trying to dry up the D for us a bit. Should be Big River, but hey, look it's a few days away. Meeting up with it's the social occasion as well. I love about the Welsh tea. Into the Hand Hotel there. So I'm adding in some 0.12 monofilament here, and that's going to be the ribbon. Okay. Make sure it's well secured in. The last thing you want to do is complete that fly, pull the scud back up over the back, and next thing go to do the ribbon and give it a bit of a pull, and the whole thing slides out. So I'd always give it a little check just before I continue on, because now is the time. If it's going to pull out, now is the time you want it to pull out, not in Tim Sullivan. The diameters of that lead is 0. The flat stuff is 0.03, and the diameter of that fine wire is 1. 1 or 2 will do fine. So 0.01 or 2. Okay, so the flat wire is 3. Okay, and then that's 0.01 or 2. Okay, they're both Tommy flies. So you're just looking at the finest round wire that's on the site, and then you're looking at the number 3 or number 4, which is fine in the flat stuff. Now, for scud back, there's loads of things we can use for scud back, okay? And some of you have seen the quality street wrappers I use. Christmas time is an abundance to pick up really good backing for nymphs. And I remember a good few years ago. Now, these shrimps have, lucky enough, won me 2 Grayling championships over the years, and we've done quite well on them. Like, you know, even not just fishing in the Welsh Dee, but other rivers over in Slovenia and stuff like these shrimp patterns have worked really well. Many moons, a long time ago, I was in someone's house, and I spotted a Christmas decoration on their tree, and I had this particular material, and that's all I have left of it. There's not a whole lot left of it, but that's all I have left. There's a small triangular piece, as you can see. Now, I have plenty of other stuff that I got in from Saboya and all sorts of places, but whatever it is about the colour of this, it is absolutely magic. And most people have seen the shrimps or fished my shrimps. There is a difference between the two when you see them. And this just really seems to do it for the Grayling. The last piece I have, can't find it anywhere, can't get it in even. You can get stuff that's fairly close, but it's either a bit too thick, it's either a bit too coloured, whatever maybe. This one is absolutely deadly. Now, when you're cutting skin off these sheets, okay, one way is to put a steel ruler down on the table and cut with a blade, or if you have a really very sharp blade, or I use a bull clip as well. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll put my material inside that bull clip to a couple of mil, only a couple of mil. I don't need much. I can see inside the bull clip and see exactly how much I'm going to trim off. A couple of mil, and then what I'll do is I'll get a very high quality razor blade, and I'll basically just slide the razor blade along the steel of the bull clip. So I get a very clean, precise cut, okay? Because you don't want, if you cut that with the scissors, what'll end up happening is when you go to stretch that and pull that over the back of the body, where you make a cut and then another cut, at that particular point, that's where she's going to crack off. Okay, there's a good chance she'll break there. Okay, so there's one piece. I'll just do another little piece there now as well. Again, into the bull clip. And then just trimmed it off. I know, Richard, yeah. But I did, I was in the house on that, and I said to the people, I was looking at it. I was actually sitting at their kitchen table, and I was looking at this thing sitting on a tree, and I couldn't take my eyes off it. And I said, I'm not going home without that. So I was checking in, eventually, I said, listen, it's going to sound fierce weird, but you see that? It was a present. It was actually like a little fake present wrapped. It was a piece of airboard wrapped in that material with a bow on it. Like, and I said, you see that little present over there? So anyway, sentimental. She said, geez, no, I got that years ago. It's wherever, I don't know where that came from or whatever. So I'm just going to tie that in at the back of the fly, as you can see there. And just make sure she's well secured in. Now, look it will break at times. Okay, there's no doubt about it. Any of that really fine flashback can break, like can break. But anyway, they agreed to give me the Christmas present, and I had it, and I opened it up now, and it was a nice size sheet of it, like. But whatever it is about it, I don't know. And if I tied this nymph now for you, and I tied another one with Similarish material. You can tell it straight away. Once you bring it out into the light, you can tell it straight away. Here I'm putting on Spectre Dubbin number 19 by Hens. Okay, I find 19 quite good. Some of the oranges can be quite good as well. I like the number 19. It's a light pink. And we'll just dub that on. Dub it on nice and tight. Again, we don't want to bulk the body. We just want to cover the lid and still create that perfect profile. Profile is everything. When this nymph drops into the water, or this nymph is swimming around, it's got to flicker. Okay, if you see what I mean by my hand there. Okay, we want to do that. It won't do that if it's round. Okay, it needs to flicker. And it also, these are smallish enough nymphs from some of the other ones. From some of the other ones I'll be tying in a few moments. You know, big bulky hare's ears and stuff like that. These are fairly small, skinny little nymphs when they're finished. And so I'm just coating that fly up along. Not getting too over bulky with it. But, you know, so these got to, you know, the profile helps these to penetrate. They really get sucked down. They get to the bottom very quick. And Grayling just love that profile. They love that shape. That's why that hare's ear, I think, works so well as well for me. Is that just that beautiful curved, grubby shape, you know. An extra little bit of dubbing just up there near the head, because that'll all fold in when we get up there now in a moment. And there's our dubbing on there now. Okay, as you can see, it bulks out a little bit at this moment, but that's fine. We're going to take our wrapping now, and we're going to just bring that over the top. Don't put too much tension on it. Just make sure there's no slack in there, really. And I'll hold it with my left hand while coming across and trapping it down there near the head. Making sure it's sitting as best on top and is even down both sides. Couple of turns just to trap it in. And you can manipulate it a little bit here at this point to make sure it's kind of over both sides. Okay. Tip again, we spoke about not cutting off waist last week. Don't cut off that waist for the moment. Okay, because if you cut off that waist, something will happen here and you won't be able to get it back up. Now I take my monofilament and I will go around and I will put those markings in the back of it, okay? Just take your time. Evenly space those ribs up along the body. They are lovely nymphs when they're finished. You know, if they're tied right with that shape, that underwork, it really sets them off. You know, that lead work you put underneath, while it's such a pain in the backside, but trust me, when you're finished your shrimp, like you look at any of those, you know, I remember years ago going to Poland quite a bit and seeing the Polish boy tie the shrimps, like, and they were just absolutely beautiful to look at. It was all down to the body work, the underwork on the bodies, you know, putting in that lead, creating the perfect shape. Just secured all that in with the thread, and now I'm just going to trim away my waist nice and gently. Pull her over on the side, and now I'll put another couple of turns in there, just and put a bit of pressure on that to really give it a good flat. Now you can see the shrimp we got now. See that? Lovely profile, still no wider than the diameter of the bead, but look at the depth we have in that body, and it's still not finished. We still have a bit of work to do on it yet, like, you know. Absolutely, Richard. Yeah, absolutely. Don't think there's a fair bit of weight in there for a small fly. What I'll do now is I'll brush the crap out of the dubbing down the sides, just to get those legs coming down, as you can see. Any little fibre dubbins that got trapped by my ribbon then is pulled down to get that really nice clean. That is a really nice nymph. Get a really nice clean. Now there's a few things I can do here. Okay, there is a few things I can do here. No, Kieran, Javi beads, too bulky. You need it slim. You need it, the profile, that profile along there, that has to be slim. Okay, Javi beads too bulky. Not for a shrimp. Yes, they'll penetrate. They have the weight. No, I don't, Chris Oliver. Wouldn't put resin on it at all. No. Yeah, Adrian, they would. They have caught fish on these on the or and olive versions. So I just tie in the very same nymph, but I use olive. Okay, olives, blacks, all that kind of stuff. They do work. You know, absolutely. They are a really, really, really attractive nymph. So what I can do here now is I can add in another piece of dubbing if I wish. I can add in a hot collar. I can add in something there. Sometimes I'll even put a little bit of black marker up in the very top here at the abdominal kind of. Thanks a million. You know, it all depends. So when I'm tying these, I'll tie 5 or 6 of the plain version like that, and I'll tie 5 or 6 then with a hot collar in behind it. I'll tie 5 or 6 with maybe a little bit of pink, so I might put a little pink collar on that there now for you, and just finish it off, you know, a bit of just to add a kind of a little bit of a hot spot now, because the D is going to be high next week, and thanks Tim, the D is going to be high next week, so we're going to need a few little hot spots, I think, to maybe convince a few ladies to come up and say hello. Nice little hot spot of pink in there behind that bead. Really fantastic little fly. And say, when you tie it and you take your time with it, and you do take a bit of time, there's no, you know, but you need to spend that bit of time on that. You need to spend a bit of time on that lead work. Get your lead, get the good stuff, and just take your time. You've seen the way I cut it, tapered both ends, and take your time mounting it on top of the hook. But once you get it done, you know, you sit down tonight and in an evening there, you know, after you do the first couple, you'll fly at them. They will get faster. And sit down there and let up 20 nymphs, and then sit down the following night or even later on. You can sit down and do your dubbins and stuff like that, and it's perfect. What I'll do now, just before I finish, is I'll just give those legs a little bit of a trim. I like to kind of trim them back up at an angle. And there we go. That'll surely count for one Welsh D Grayling next weekend. Lovely, lovely fly. Lovely tie. Lovely, nice profile. Exactly what you want. That'll go down to the water like a bullet. And I said, when it's down on the bottom, it will have that flicker. Okay? And that's what you want. So there we go. That's going into the tub there, folks. Along with anything else I practiced on earlier on. And it's going to be given away. So all you got to do is share the stream or comment, and I will get that off to somebody on Monday, along with Liam Long's flies he won today. Now, I'm going to move on to another fly before we go to Rocus. What am I going to do here? No, I'm going to save. There is a very good Perdigon I have that I haven't tied on a show before, believe it or not, and I am going to tie that one for you. That'll come along later on. Dave is going to be along with his trivia. Thanks, Brian. Thanks, Graham. Dave is going to be along with his trivia. But just before we do go into that, I'm going to tie another cracking fly. So this again is a fly that has produced the goods. It is my point fly. So normally if I'm fishing for grayling, anyone got any questions, by the way, folks, about the grayling, please do shoot them across. I don't proclaim to be a grayling expert, but I have done a lot of grayling fishing, and I've talked to a lot of really good grayling anglers, so they've shared their information with me. So if I can help anybody with any issues about grayling, or you know where to go, like obviously the Welsh D, we go to the Welsh D quite regularly. Now since COVID, it hasn't been as prolific. I haven't been as gotten over there as often as I used to, but still we do go quite a bit, like, you know. Thanks Dylan. We do still get over there a bit, but this would be my pint fly. When I go to the Welsh D now next Thursday morning, and I drive to fly to Manchester, and I get off the plane and drive down the road, and I get onto the Welsh D wherever I'm going to go, this will be the first fly that will go up on my. This will be the fly that will go up my point. A shrimp will go up on the dropper. Okay, either the pink shrimp or the orange shrimp. I always start, but I always put up this pink sarca. That's what we call it. Okay, lovely fly. Have tied it before, but you couldn't do a night tying flies for grayling without tying this fly. Okay. Question coming up there from Dave O'Donovan. Watch out for that one there, folks. So, Kevlar thread on a jig hook size 14, the Haku jig hook, and I got a 3.5mm slotted tungsten bead there. Again, it's metallic pink. Great colour for the ladies. So here I got some Angel Hair Raspberry, okay, by Sabaya. Really good stuff. Love this stuff. You can see that UV fleck that's in it. Lovely stuff for a tail. Believe it or not, quite brittle when you're pulling it out of the pack, but once you tie that in there and loop it over and secure it in well, it is actually quite strong. So I'll just take out a small section of it and I'll double it over, as you can see, and tie it out the back. I'm just breaking it off with my finger and thumb till I get the right length. Okay, and that's in underneath it. I'll just trim them out of the way because there we go. Okay, lovely. Quite a simple tie, but super effective. Okay, yeah, absolutely, Kevin. Jamie Conway just asked the question, do I fish 2 or 3? Depends on the water, Jamie. Judging by what's in the D at the moment, Dave is on there, folks. What is Wales's longest river? Great question. I don't even think I'd know the answer. I'd be only guessing. But what is Wales's longest river? So, but back to back to Jamie's question there. Lots of people guessing the D, but I don't think he's all right, folks. I would have guessed the D as well, but I have a feeling Dave wouldn't ask that question if it was that easy. But anyway, it depends on the depths of the river. I think, judging by the depths that are there at the moment and the rain that's coming, I think I'll be on 3 nymphs. I'd say, Jamie, I'll 3 nymphs. Fishing them quite close. I think what I like to do here, I've got just the dubbin I'm putting on here, as you can see, is a mix of my own. It's a hare's ear dubbin mixed with about 10 other. I use on my pheasant tails. There's about 10 dubbins in that. I couldn't even begin to give you the formula, and if I, you know me, if I had the formula for it, I would. I just sit and mix it all the time. Mix a massive bag of for myself, and then it's just a lovely mix of colours. And I'm just dubbing that on. No rib on this, folks. We want this to be nice and scruffy and scraggy and loose, and so I'd say I'll be fishing 3. But if it depends what way the Grayling behave, Jamie. Really, if they're coming in close, if they're kind of on the move, on the hunt, and when you get in and start moving up through the river, they'll follow you. So if they're getting close, well, then there's no point in nymph 15 foot away from me myself with 2 nymphs. I'll often put up 3 nymphs and keep them really close, like literally going down by my boots, because that's where the Grayling will be. I don't know if we have a correct answer in there yet or not, Dave. Let us know, whoever wins it. Anyway, nice goodie bag there coming up. Adding in more dubbing there now as well. Just going back over a bit, getting a nice bit of bulk on that. And then I start to brush. This is why I don't put in a rib, because I want that thing to be all brushed out. And when this thing gets wet, man, it's a sight. I always just catch all your dubbins, stroke them back. Once I get back as far as the tail, I'll break them off to make sure nothing's going to be longer than that tail. And see the scruffiness of that. That's exactly the way I want it. But look at the colours that are in there. You imagine when that thing is wet and a little bit of sunshine comes out on a winter's day, or a little bit of UV hits that. I don't know, Graham. The Amazon mightn't be that far over to Wales. I don't know if it comes up as far as Wales. But you can see the colour mix that's in that dubbin, and you can see that lovely, not too gaudy pink, the raspberry sitting in underneath that body. Absolutely beautiful combination. Here I'm going to add in a little bit of white UV rabbit, Biscari fly stuff, our own stuff down in the shop. I'm just going to take a small little pinch of this. Now I also tie this with a hot tag, or a hot butt on the end of it, not tag, actually a butt. So I'll tie variations depending on what way the Grayling, what humour they're in, the colour, the clarity of the water, depending on what I'm going to fish. Be it a lot of tags and stuff like that. So sometimes I will actually tie the same fly with a bit of a tag. Brian Kennedy is our winner. Congratulations, Brian. I'll get that nice lucky bag. Loads of goodies in it there. Off to you. So, obviously, we're talking about the Welsh D next weekend, folks. I won't be going live next weekend, unfortunately. I'll be in the Welsh D. We'll be in the middle of the tournament and hopefully in the hunt or somewhere. Trying to get up off the bottom, maybe. But, so it won't. We're going to take a break from the show next weekend, and I will be back the following weekend. And then we're in the rundown to Christmas. When I come back the following weekend, we'll give us a shout on when the Christmas kind of special. We always kind of do something a little bit different at Christmas time. Put on a bit of a special. Get lots of extra goodies to give away and stuff like that. I know, Dennis, yeah. Of course, AWOL are out tomorrow, folks. I'm down in Adair Springs. Best luck to Dennis and the crew in AWOL tomorrow. Everyone that's going down to Ned Mars tomorrow. I was down there today, say, at the Munster Banks. I was doing I'm going to add a little bit of a colour here now, which is glow break number 5. Okay. I was down marking, or doing the scores for the Munster, giving the lads a hand out there for a few minutes this evening, so I had to call down and talk to them anyway, don't forget. The Irish Spring Angling Fair is taking place down there again, the Maybank holiday weekend. Great angling show, not to be missed. Great lineup this year. We haven't given away much about who's coming this year, but it's going to be a much bigger, better show than last year, even though last year was a fantastic show, but bigger. So there we just added in a nice hot orange collar. As cold as it can be, Graham. As cold as it can be. That's what I always like. The colder the better. Just a little bit of Tommy Fly lacquer there on that one. Head lacquer with Tommy Fly. You see it's on a handy little needle. I just add a little bit onto that there. That'll soak through and make it nice and strong. But that there would be my pint fly any given day of the week. fishing for grayling. What a nymph, has caught some amount of fish for me over the years. Absolutely fantastic. So that, when I arrived to the Thursday, you know, that nymph will always go up first. It's one of the first ones. I know the hare's ear and all that are quite good, but that's a real fish catcher. Fantastic, fantastic fly. But now, folks, we're going to move on a bit now, and I'm going to hand you over to Rocos. Rocos sent us over another lovely video, tying a nice hare's ear nymph. I watched it earlier on, and it's a fabulous piece of tying. We're going to come back then, and I'm going to do a perdigon, probably my #1 Grayling perdigon. So do stay tuned for that one, and I'll see you all back here in a few moments.
Hello to everyone joining the Pescari fly tying stream tonight. My name is Rokas Anulis. I'm joining you from Kaunas, Lithuania, from the Fly to Tie shop. And today I'll be tying one of my favorite nymph patterns, something that has worked really well this season. It's really a simple pattern, a simple hare's ear variation. However, if you have any questions throughout about the fly, I'll do my best to join the stream and answer any of your questions. So just put them down in the comments, and I'll be there to answer any questions that you may have. Let's just jump right into it then. What I'm using here is a size 12 jig hook with a 4mm tungsten bead. This is pretty much as large as I tie this fly, and I'll go down to around size 16, 18. As long as I can tie it to where it looks good enough, it fishes good enough as well. So just start your thread by the bead and move it backwards to roughly where the hook starts to bend. I'm using a hook that has a fairly short hook shank with a really wide bend, so I really need to know this hook to be able to tie it nicely and not move too far back. For the tail, this time I'll be using just tips of a teal feather, but I really use anything that has this natural barring, so mallard feathers, partridge, even something like grizzly cock feathers, anything works just as well, as long as the natural barring is there. Just pluck off maybe 6 or 7 fibers away from the feather. It has a slight natural curvature that wants to go up, so try to use that curvature and tie in a fairly short tail. I don't want it any longer than the body itself, and as I mentioned, the body is short on this hook, so you can just pull it in if you feel it's too long at any point. This is roughly what the tail ought to look like. You don't have to use a hook like this. I just found this hook to be really effective when it comes to fishing. It really grips onto the fish. Once the tail is secure, snip off the remaining fibers. And now for the ribbing of the fly, I will be using a Unifloss in hot red. However, I found that the full strand of floss is just a bit too thick and it really dominates over the body. So I just split the strand of the Unifloss into 2 to get a slimmer floss. You can use pretty much anything, also in an orange color, Glow Bright, just orange time thread. Whatever you feel looks right. Catch it in on top of the hook and move all the way backwards to the base of the tail with your ribbing. Keep it out of the way for now. And now for the body, I'll be using a natural hare's dubbing, rabbit body dubbing. I don't really need the spiky fibers too much for this, so any rabbit dubbing will do. And it will work just as well in any natural color. What I have right here is closer to a natural ginger, but once again, if you don't have that, any natural hair dubbing will do. Just pick out some dubbing out of the pack. spin it on straight onto the thread, forming a fairly thin dubbing noodle that just tapers slightly towards the end. And form that body with touching turns of the dubbing loop, all the way up to the bead. Now it's time for the ribbing. I really found that showing 3 to 4 turns of the rib is just perfect for this fly. If I get any more than 4, then the orange floss just dominates the body and there's barely any rabbit showing through. So what I will do to make sure that the floss isn't laying too flat, I want it quite round, so I'll spin it between my fingers in one direction before I start winding it. Keep the tail out of the way and just wind it, space it out as evenly as I can. Once again, making 3 to 4 wraps and tying it off right there by the bead. Snip it off once it's secured with your thread. And the next thing I'm gonna do is a CDC collar hackle. All I need is a single CDC feather, and for sizes smaller than 12, I will also either use a much sparser feather or just a half a CDC feather is usually more than enough. However, for a size 12, I will use a full feather. Put it into my CDC clamp, just like this. I won't be using the ends of the feather, so I can snip them off, get them out of the way. Take another clamp. The clamps that I'm using always come 2 in a packet, so you'll always have that handy. Take it into your other clamp, and once that's done, just trim off the stem. And what you have is a CDC ready to use. At this point, you can either split the thread if you're using a thread that's easy to split, or what I'm going to be doing right now is just forming a dubbing loop. Insert my dubbing loop spinner into the loop and insert the CDC fibers as high up the loop as I can comfortably go and start spinning them up. Get it to a point where the loop is spun up enough so that the fibers really feel like they're not going anywhere, they're firm there, and just start winding it like you would a soft hackle, brushing the fibers back with each turn, putting one turn in front of the other. And if at any point you feel like you've got enough CDC on the fly, you can stop, because not all CDC feathers are the same, and sometimes you get a lot more fibers than others. Now, once you're happy with the hackle, tie it off with a couple of turns each side of the thread and snip off the dubbing loop. And you can either finish the fly as it is, or what I tend to do is just pick up very tiny amount of the same dubbing that I used for the body, and this helps me clean up anything that doesn't look tidy at the front of the fly. So any CDC fibers that might be looking stray, I can lay them backwards. Any loose thread that I don't want to be seeing on the fly, I can hide that. But I really just want enough to make a full turn around the shank of the hook, around. And there's not really much more that I need, so really don't take too much dubbing. This just tidies the fly and makes it look the way I want it to look. I really doubt that it has any effect on the way the fly works, but the flies are there to catch the fishermen as much as they are to catch the fish, so I feel like this fly just looks better that way. Now before finishing, I will add a little bit of varnish on the thread itself. This just makes it easier for me to finish the fly without getting it too messy. And with the varnished thread, make a 4 or 5 turn whip finish. Pull it tight, snip off the thread close. And now the only thing that I change after it's done is if I have some fibers that I feel are too long. By too long I mean significantly longer than the tail. I will just pull them back, and instead of cutting, I will pinch them off. I feel like this provides a much more natural look than cutting the fiber. And if there's one or two that are a bit longer, that's fine. It doesn't really affect the fly at all. That's it. The fly is done. It's really not a difficult pattern to tie. It's one that catches plenty of fish. If you like content like this, feel free to check out our YouTube channel. We're going to be starting to upload much more content in English from now on. And also feel free to check us out on Facebook or Instagram. We're tying plenty of flies and doing plenty of other fly fishing content, which might be something you like. Thanks for your attention, and I'll be looking forward to seeing you again sometime.
There we have, folks. We're back here in studio. Thanks Rokos from Lithuania, good friend of ours here over in Lithuania. Rokos tying another beautiful nymph pattern for us. Hope you've enjoyed that. Good man, Rokos is on there as well. So well done, Rokos, brilliant. Lovely tying. Rokos has a lovely style of tying. Really do appreciate Rocco sharing his information, and indeed everyone. We got loads of shows lined up, folks. You know, this marks kind of the end of Nymph in November. We always kind of, you know, focus a bit on Nymph during the month of November, but following on from here, once we get into December, January and February, you know, we're going to be doing lock style, pike nights, sea bass nights, sea trout nights, salmon nights. So there's going to be lots coming up in the shows over the next couple of months. Do stay with us. We'll be here till March. The first Saturday, it'll be the Saturday just before Paddy's Day, before the season starts. We'll do a Saturday night till then where we're all tying away. So, but what I just wanted to show you here is a couple of patterns here of really good Grayling flies as well. So these flies are not tied by my own hands. These are tied by a lady in Slovenia. Oh my God, I know her so well. I mean, her name just slipped me tongue. Tina Poznan. Okay, over there in Slovenia. You can buy these nymphs from Scaffar's website, www.scaffars.com, I think it is, or something like that. But Mirko Scaffar, absolutely, Chris Oliver, the simple flies seem to be best. These are crackers. These shrimp patterns are absolute crackers. Now I get fish on these. I get brown trout on these. I get, but they really are designed for Grayling. Okay. It's solid. They're absolutely solid. That's lead work all completely underneath, resin on top. Really solid. They go down very, very quick. But you can see that profile. Again, you know, a high back body, very narrow profile. They penetrate like damned. I've even bungfished these for rainbows and got fish on them. A bit of a hackle underneath. There's a fair bit of work on them now. That's one particular small. That's quite a small little shrimp. There's another one that's really, really good for the Grayling. That pink one there with the orange hot spot. You can see that one's been bounced off a few rocks on the back of it. They're really good, you know. Get a lot of good Grayling on those as well. I always have a box of them with me, and I always keep a good selection off of Tina, and really worth having in the box if you're going for Grayling as well. Okay, now we're going to move on and do a bit of a perdigon. We'll do a bit of a perdigon that I know has worked decent enough for me. I probably haven't fished it as much as I should have had, but I know a good few of our customers over there in the UK and stuff that order a lot of flies off us do fish this one quite a lot, and they do like it. So it's a jig hook, the Hacker jig hook size 14 with a 3.5mm Piscari fly, slotted metallic pink tungsten bead sitting up on that there as well. Absolutely, John, yeah, you're dead right, yeah. I'm going to put in some Tommy fly here, number 14, to start this fly off. So yeah, we got lots of great shows lined up after the break. A little bit of a break next week, and then it's the run into Christmas. We got a great Christmas show lined up, starting to work on that one already. And we got a couple of interesting shows, really different stuff coming up along the way. So do stay tuned. There's going to be some great guests on, and some great content. Going to tie in a bit of cocktail on there for a tail. And then wind down, before I wind down actually, I'm going to add in some Sampler Fly Perfect Quill. Okay, Sampler Fly Perfect Quill. And I'm just going to take this stuff as adhesive, so you got to peel it off the card. So I'm just going to peel a piece of this off the card. And obviously when I'm attaching it to the hook, as you can see, it's stuck to my finger. When I'm attaching the hook, you keep the sticky side facing towards you. Now I'm not going to attach it right in its tip. I'm going to move it up along a bit. Tip can be a bit brittle. And when you go to, there's a good bit of work to be done on this nymph between now and when I'm actually ready to. Just what I'm doing there now, as you can see, I'm unwinding a little bit because I don't want to go the whole way to where this fly is going to actually, the body of this fly is going to start coming up off the bend of that hook, okay? Secure that in, take off your bit of waste. And then I'm going to just start forming my underbody. Keep the orange down to this end. It's kind of bright orange. And I'm going to put in a section there. Not coming all the way up to the bead. Just getting exactly the underbody I want. Nice and level. Slight little forward taper on it. And that'll do fine there. Whip finish and remove that thread. Okay. Then I'm going to take some white Tommy Fly number 1, and we have the whole range of Tommy Fly stuff in the store. And Tommy Fly actually recently sent me a load of samples of lots of new products they're coming. Some really, really interesting stuff. We'll have it in store, and I'm going to finish off that, shaping that body with the white. I love the Tommy Fly UV reflective thread. It's so intense, the colours. So I'll just continuing on that taper up near the there we go. We'll finish that one and then remove that one. Okay, so you can see now we got 2 colours there. Now what we're going to do, that's an underbody, so what we're going to do is put something on top of that. Okay, and what we're going to use is Hen's Body Quill, a pearl pink. Okay, so it's Hen's Body Quill pearl pink, as you can see, and it has a UV flick to it as well. Really fine material. I do use it in a thread bobbin. You got to be careful with this stuff. It can be a bit brittle, so do take your time. Okay, but it adds some look to this fly when you see it. And we're going to put that over on top of that. And of course with the 2-tone underbody, you can imagine we're going to get a lovely tone to this fly. So just take your time, don't put too much pressure on that. And now I'll take this down onto the bare hook, just a little bit. So I get a really nice taper and a really nice look, as you can see, just to the bare butt of that fly. There will be a little UV kind of spot there against the black of the hook. And I'll start layering that up till I'm happy. As you can see, you can fray a little bit, so just be careful. If it starts to fray too much, I will go back a couple of turns and start again. Take out a section maybe, because it is going to be all resined up, of course. It is a perdigon. So as you can see there now, you're not really making it out, but you will in a few moments make out that kind of two-tone underbody. Okay, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take my quill material and slowly start winding it up the fly. Trying to keep it as even as possible on turns. That one was a little bit wide on that side. There we go. It's kind of handy having the camera actually on both sides, because I can check the TV screen and make sure my turns are kind of fairly right. Just kind of widen them as they're getting up a little bit closer to the head. Of course, these are transparent. And 1 or 2 turns then with that. It's perfect quill from Semperfly, John. Hey, Billy Boland. So I'm just going to trim away. I just trapped that in. It is sticky, so it does stick. But I just trapped it in a little bit with the pearl body quill. And I'm just going to gently tie a little whip finishing at the back of that bead. Gentle. Pull it through nice and easy. That stuff is quite brittle. Okay, but it's okay. Once we get it in there and get that knot in there, that's fine. Give that a little snip off. And now I'm going to resin that whole thing up. So as usual, I'm using the Solder Res Tin Hard. Okay, that's what I use the whole time for my resins. I got my little brush here, and what I do is I put a little bit into a tub, and I just work from that. I find that's the easiest way to do it and the cleanest way to do it. And I'll resin that up. I always start with a good blob up near the head and then stroke it back down along the fly. And just take your time. Always making sure, now as you can see, a little problem has happened there, and that little whip finish has come undone. Okay, now I'm not going to take that whole fly back. So here's a little thing. Okay, something like that happens to you. It's a pertagon. We're going to resin. I'm going to put another couple of layers of resin on top of this. It's not going to go anywhere. So what I'll do is I'll catch me pin nose pliers, and I'll catch that loose piece of material before it does any damage to the fly as such, as regards unravel to the extent that something comes loose. And put it back into place. Keep a bit of tension on that, and I'll hit it with my UV laser pen, and it sets it. Okay, so the whole thing is set now. That's not going anywhere. Okay, and I'm going to resin the crap out of that. But you can see now as I'm going to cross that with the resin, you can't really see it as good as I can see it. But that orange, you can see that orange coming through the underbody. So once that's sealed up, take away that little bit of mishap. And I'm going back to my resin again. The whole thing is going to be so solid with resin now in a few moments, that ain't going to make a difference. And I'll just put another there just to get a real nice shine on it. But what I was going to say about resin there just before that little mishap, you know, it's very important when you're resining up nymphs or buzz or anything like that, you seal the fly. You know, so I'm making sure the resin gets up near the bead. It coming up onto the bead, off the body up near the bead, and then it's also going in around the hook at the very butt. So you're sealing the fly, okay? We'll give that another little zap. And then the last piece, I want to just make sure that that slot is sealed off. Set it again. So you can see lovely underbody of that fly, lovely bit of UV coming through it, and really lovely subtle pinky UV flash. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to take the Solder Res Bone Dry Black, and I'm going to put a little spot on the back of that nymph. That's why I've done that last bit of resin work there, was just to make sure that this is not just going to plop into that. So what I'll do is I'll just use the tip of my brush, form a nice little black bit of resin there. I always turn it upside down so it doesn't flow. Absolutely, Brian Kenny, the translucent effect of this nymph is, you'd have to see it in real life to, and you go, geez, look at that. So turn it upside down, and I hit that black resin before it starts to move anyway around the side of the fly. I'll go back in and I'll layer that up again. You can try put it on in one layer for something like that, but what more than likely will end up happening is it'll flow the whole way down on the side of the bead, and you won't get it to stay directly on top. Okay, hold it upside down again and give it another hit. And Kevin is down there, that really glows, it does, and that's the Tommy Fly UV reflective tying thread underneath it. You can see the bang off of that once I come onto that thread, like, you know. Yeah, perfect. And there we have a nice spot in the back. You can see the shine off it. It's completely translucent. Has that really kind of fleshy look to it as such. And lovely kind of subtle UV pink on that. That is, that's catching a lot of fish for grayling hunters over in the UK. I'll be tying and bringing a good few of those with me. I'll let you know how they go next week. To the Welsh D, but really, really nice fly. Doing that underbody with that body quill, I'm sure it'd make good buzzer bodies and stuff. We must, when we're doing a buzzer night, we'll have a look at that maybe again and see what sort of stuff we can come up with. But a couple of flies there, folks. Talking about a couple of flies, showed you a couple of things. Anyone that's going grayling hunting, I hope he's giving him a lash and you get some success with them, as much success as I get with them. That's basically it, folks, for tonight. Best luck to all the A-wallers tomorrow. Best of luck to everybody going to the Hannock European Grayling Festival and the Welsh D next weekend. We will be leaving on Thursday. There won't be a show next week, but we will be back the week after, folks, with another live show. Do stay tuned for that one. It'll be heading down the road of some other topics rather than infant, and say building up for the Christmas. So thanks everybody for watching. Thanks everyone for their continued support as always here in Pescaria Fly. Don't forget, if you need anything for the Christmas, do check out www.pescariafly.com. Thanks a million to Dave for his trivia as usual, and Rokus for his fabulous video he sent over to us. And I hope you all enjoy the rest of your weekend, folks, and stay safe, everyone. Tight lines to all those going fishing, and I will see you all back here in 2 weeks' time, Saturday night, 8:30 p.m. Thanks a minute, folks.